Britain understood early that true power never lived on crowded streets or fragile surface cities above. When empires fought openly, armies died loudly, yet the real war unfolded secretly beneath silent ground. Gold needed protection deeper than sunlight, deeper than politics, deeper than the reach of collapsing nations. So Britain descended underground, building a hidden world where wealth could survive any imaginable catastrophe. London's foundations were perfect for secrecy, carved by centuries of geological pressure and natural strength. Engineers surveyed the rock and realized they could cut vaults that earthquakes and bombs could hardly disturb. Where others built monuments reaching upward toward the sky, Britain dug downward toward absolute security instead. These tunnels became arteries, feeding an unseen empire whose heartbeat echoed quietly under everyday footsteps. Gold trains traveled at night, escorted through guarded passages unknown even to most government officials alive. Carriages rolled through tunnels, lit only by faint lamps, reflecting shimmering bars stacked like ancient treasure. No public records documented their movement, no newspapers questioned their purpose, no bystander ever witnessed them. Britain created a transportation network designed not for passengers, but for pure concentrated global power. Nations struck by war or political collapse shipped their reserves toward London with desperate urgency. For many leaders, trusting Britain was not preference, but the last remaining method of national survival. They chose vaults beneath London because those chambers felt safer than their own capital cities above. The decision shaped diplomacy, turning fear, uncertainty, and vulnerability into fuel for Britain's rising influence. Inside these vaults, humidity stayed controlled, temperature remained constant, and metal never tarnished or aged. Architects designed layers of steel and concrete thick enough to withstand almost any known weapon. Guard rotations followed unpredictable patterns, ensuring no routine existed long enough for infiltration attempts. Britain fused engineering with paranoia, creating a fortress where wealth could hibernate indefinitely without risk. Foreign central banks stored bullion there, entrusting Britain with the literal backbone of their economies. These deposits strengthened London's status as global guardian, stabilizer, and undisputed financial emergency shelter. With every shipment, political dependence deepened. Economic sovereignty grew quieter, smaller, increasingly negotiable. Hidden vaults became a mirror reflecting global anxiety, and Britain watched that reflection carefully. During turbulent decades, these vaults held not only gold, but government archives, treaties, and survival plans. Entire histories lay protected underground, stored beside bullion that represented nations struggling to stay alive. Britain preserved these documents faithfully, gaining influence not just over wealth, but over memory itself. To access the future, many countries needed Britain to safeguard their past, creating intimate geopolitical entanglement. Some rumors claimed the vaults held more than financial reserves or political agreements under protection. Whispers circulated about cultural artifacts, royal jewels, and confiscated treasures hidden far from public scrutiny. Historians argued endlessly, yet Britain maintained silence. Understanding mystery amplified its authority even further. The unknown became a weapon, strengthening the vault's mythology more effectively than confirmed truth ever could. Security teams trained relentlessly, studying sabotage, infiltration, explosives, and advanced psychological manipulation tactics. Their objective was simple: ensure nothing, not foreign spies, insiders, or hostile governments, breached these chambers. Those who worked closest to the vaults learned to speak little, observe everything, and trust absolutely nothing. Britain did not guard money alone. It guarded belief in a sanctuary that could never be violated. Londoners above lived ordinary lives, walking unknowingly over corridors holding fortunes greater than national budgets. Banks towered across the skyline, but the real kingdom existed below, hidden from ordinary human sight. Every vault expansion carved deeper into the earth, turning London into a layered financial organism. It grew like a secret city, engineered for one purpose: to protect and control global wealth. The deeper the vaults extended, the stronger Britain's influence became in negotiations across continents. Nations anxious about security aligned willingly with the country, capable of shielding their economic lifeblood. This alignment formed alliances shaped not by friendship, but by the gravitational pull of safety. Protecting wealth created obedience, and obedience created a form of empire far subtler than military conquest. Shipping giants, merchant families, and multinational corporations all used London's vault system during instability. They feared losing generational assets to coups, depressions, currency collapse, or foreign nationalization threats. Only Britain offered a sanctuary strong enough to outlive political chaos and economic destruction. Thus, the vaults became part of global corporate DNA, the place where continuity was guaranteed. Above ground, politicians debated, economies fluctuated, and alliances shifted with volatile global events. Below ground, gold sat unmoving, unchanging, indifferent to ideology, government transitions, or shifting borders. In that stillness, Britain found power, the power of being the only constant. The more unpredictable the world became, the more essential its underground guardianship grew. By the 20th century, Britain stored wealth from countries on every continent, friend and rival alike. The vaults held reserves from monarchies, democracies, dictatorships, and temporary governments formed during collapse. No ideology mattered, preserving assets mattered, and everyone trusted Britain above themselves. This created a paradox. Nations fought Britain politically yet depended on it financially to survive turmoil. The vault system expanded further during major conflicts, becoming the backbone of wartime financial coordination. Economies depended on reserves protected beneath London, while armies fought thousands of miles away. Victory often required more than weapons. It required gold untouched by invasion or destruction. Britain ensured that gold remained safe, becoming wartime banker for half the world simultaneously. Tunnels connected vault districts with secure communication rooms, monitoring equipment, and emergency evacuation routes. Some corridors ran so deep that even experienced personnel felt disoriented by depth and silence. Engineers installed seismic detectors able to sense even subtle underground disturbances instantly. This vigilance formed a living defense grid, watching the earth itself for danger approaching. Britain never needed to showcase these vaults publicly. Secrecy was part of their strategic identity. A hidden fortress inspired more than any visible monument etched across London's surface. The unknown dimensions, capacity, and contents transformed the vaults into instruments of psychological influence. Fear of not knowing strengthened Britain's aura, making its financial authority nearly unchallengeable. Governments made decisions considering one question above all: could Britain remain their ultimate protector? If the answer was yes, they aligned policies. If uncertain, they hesitated significantly. Vault access shaped priorities, diplomacy, interest negotiations, and even regional stability discussions globally. Britain understood this leverage intimately and used it with extraordinary quiet precision. Thus Britain built an empire not above ground, but beneath it, hidden from ordinary history. While the world watched flags rise and fall, the vaults remained untouched and eternal. They formed a subterranean kingdom where gold slept and nations bent gently towards security. This was Britain's greatest secret: power preserved in silence, darkness, and unbreakable stone. Nations soon realized that Britain's underground vaults didn't just protect wealth, they quietly shaped destiny. Every shipment entering London's tunnels tightened an invisible rope around governments desperate for stability. Once reserves slept beneath British soil, political independence instantly shrank into disciplined, cautious calculation. The vaults didn't demand loyalty, They created it silently through fear, safety, and necessity. Diplomats negotiated as if gold beneath London breathed, alongside their arguments and ambitions. They understood agreements failed easily unless Britain's subterranean protection remained guaranteed and uninterrupted. A treaty signed above ground was worthless if reserves lay vulnerable in foreign lands. So London's vaults became unspoken negotiators, sitting ghost-like within every international conversation. Whenever a nation considered policy changes that threatened global balance, Britain monitored vault patterns closely. If withdrawals increased suddenly, London interpreted signals as warnings of rising instability abroad. Conversely, heavy deposits signaled fear, creating opportunities for Britain to guide decisions quietly. The vaults weren't passive storerooms, they were instruments reading the world's emotional temperature. Corporate titans relied on British vaults to safeguard their assets during aggressive expansion worldwide. When entering volatile regions, they stored collateral underground, ensuring business continuity despite unfolding chaos. This created a global corporate culture anchored not in home nations, but beneath London itself. Every vault deposit connected boardrooms to Britain's gravitational pull, strengthening influence without visible enforcement. During economic crashes, nations didn't run to allies. They ran to Britain's vaults immediately. Collapse meant nothing if reserves survived underground, protected from political collapse or civil unrest. London became a lighthouse guiding economies struggling desperately through storms of uncertainty and panic. The vaults offered something priceless, the promise that money could outlive any catastrophe. Scholars argued that Britain's vault system represented the world's first financial sanctuary state, a place where borders dissolved, ideologies evaporated, and survival instincts overpowered national pride entirely. Inside those chambers, gold didn't belong to countries, it belonged to preservation itself. Britain mastered this logic, converting fear into influence more effectively than empires built through conquest. Foreign intelligence services tried infiltrating Britain's subterranean networks, yet none succeeded beyond superficial mapping. The tunnels twisted unpredictably, designed to disorient even seasoned operatives trained for infiltration. Sensors detected motion, heat, pressure, and vibration with near-military precision across every corridor. The vaults weren't protected by walls alone, they were protected by engineered unpredictability. Britain enhanced vault capacity with new technologies that made intrusion nearly mathematically impossible. Biometric layers required matching heartbeat rhythm, thermal profile, and microscopic behavioral patterns. Even if one barrier fell, a dozen more awakened instantly to block advancement. The vaults evolved like an organism, ensuring nothing alive or mechanical slipped through undetected. Political leaders often visited London privately during quiet hours, reviewing their nation's stored reserves. They walked through cold corridors, feeling the weight of centuries resting behind steel doors. For them, the vaults weren't just protective spaces, they were reminders of vulnerability. Standing there, they realized sovereignty's fragility depended entirely on Britain's willingness to guard it. As more nations joined the system, Britain became the subconscious financial mind of global civilization. What happened beneath London rippled through stock exchanges, banking systems, and legislative decisions worldwide. Central banks monitored vault trends like doctors studying heartbeat monitors for subtle shifts. Economic health, global stability, and national confidence depended on patterns hidden underground. Some vault sections held diplomatic archives too sensitive for surface-level existence anywhere else. Documents outlining wars, alliances, betrayals, and historic bargains slept inside perfectly maintained containers. Britain protected these records because controlling memory often mattered more than controlling money. Nations understood this truth. Lose your archives, and you lose your version of history. Even after political empire collapsed, the Vault Empire remained untouched, independent, and fully respected. Countries that rejected British rule still relied on British protection, for their survival. It was the ultimate paradox, a fallen empire that continued ruling beneath the ground. Britain lost territory, but gained something greater, control through global dependence on safety. The vaults also shaped military behavior in ways historians rarely acknowledged publicly or academically. Nations calculated war risks based on whether reserves could be protected underground in London. If wealth was safe, they fought harder. If exposed, they negotiated earlier. Thus, Britain influenced wars without raising a flag or firing a single weapon. Technology firms later stored intellectual blueprints underground to evade cyber threats devastating modern systems. Britain became guardian not just of gold, but of innovation's future across continents. This expanded role transformed vaults into vaults of ideas, not merely metallic wealth. Human progress found refuge beneath London, shaping inventions before they reached the world above. Cultural treasures hidden inside the vaults linked nations emotionally to Britain for generations afterwards. When revolutions threatened museums, monarchies, or religious institutions, Britain protected their heritage quietly. These hidden artifacts became diplomatic anchors, binding nations to Britain through shared preservation. Power shifted subtly from gold to memory, from metal to meaning, still underground. Some politicians attempted to remove national reserves from Britain, promising restored financial independence immediately. But markets panicked, currencies shook violently, and bond yields rose like approaching thunder. Leaders quickly reversed decisions, understanding stability mattered more than symbolic sovereignty. The vaults had become too important, their gravity too strong to escape. London expanded its subterranean city further, creating new chambers deeper than previous generations believed possible. Engineers reinforced every level with materials designed to survive unimaginable global disasters. Vault operators planned for centuries, not decades, imagining futures where nations might disappear. The silence inside those chambers carried a unique weight, almost ceremonial in its intensity. Walking there felt like entering a space untouched by politics, emotion, or human weakness. It was a cathedral made of metal, stone, and the concentrated faith of nations. The vaults weren't merely storage, they were the spiritual center of global finance. Thus, Britain built an empire invisible yet unavoidable, quiet yet overwhelmingly powerful across history. Not an empire of territory, armies, or flags, but an empire of safety. Nations didn't bow to Britain, they entrusted Britain with the essence of their existence. And in that trust, Britain discovered influence no surface empire had ever achieved. If this story changed how you see power hidden beneath streets, remember, the greatest empires survive where no one ever looks. Subscribe for more untold histories buried under global wealth. Because somewhere underground, the next vault might already be opening.